3 seconds to ruin your life. The bass thundered through Naomi's ribcage like a second heartbeat, each thump syncing with the pulse in her temples. She shouldn't have been there. Not at Inferno, not at 2 a.m. On a Tuesday when her rent was 3 weeks overdue, and her shift at Romano's had left grease embedded so deep under her fingernails no amount of scrubbing could reach it. But Jasmine had insisted, "You need this. Girl, you're gonna snap." And now Naomi stood pressed against bodies that cost more than her entire wardrobe, drowning in cologne that probably had names she couldn't pronounce. The club existed in the kind of darkness money bought. Strategic, deliberate. Red lights sliced through manufactured fog, illuminating fragments of faces, glints of jewelry, flashes of skin. Everything here was expensive. The champagne, the silence about what happened behind the VIP curtains, the willful blindness of everyone pretending this was just another nightclub, and not something far more dangerous. Naomi's head swam. 2 drinks. That's all she'd had. 2 drinks that Jasmine swore were on the house from some promoter who liked her smile. But now her vision tilted sideways and her thoughts moved through molasses. She steadied herself against a marble column that felt ice cold even through her skin, trying to remember why she'd thought this was a good idea. The man appeared beside her like he'd materialized from the smoke itself. Tall, sharp suit that looked painted on. Dark hair swept back in a way that suggested professional maintenance. And those eyes, Jesus, those eyes almost black in the crimson light, watching her with an intensity that made her stomach flip. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just stood there, close enough that she could smell cedar and something darker, something that made her think of expensive hotels and locked rooms. Maybe it was the drinks. Maybe it was the 36 hours she'd been awake. Maybe it was the way her manager had screamed at her today for dropping a tray, his spit hitting her face while she apologized for existing. Maybe she just wanted to feel powerful for once. Wanted. Dangerous. She kissed him, grabbed his face with both hands and pressed her lips to his like she had every right in the world. Like she wasn't a broke waitress from the South Side wearing a dress she'd borrowed from Jasmine. Like she was someone else entirely, someone bold and reckless and free. For exactly 3 seconds, he didn't move. Then his hand closed around her wrist. Not violent, not gentle either, just firm enough to stop her, to hold her exactly where he wanted her. When she pulled back, blinking through the haze, his expression hadn't changed. No shock, no desire, no anger. Just that same calculated assessment. Like she was a problem he was working through in real time. "You're drunk," he said. His voice carried an accent she couldn't quite place American, but with Italian vowels softening the edges. "I'm fine." The words came out slurred. She wasn't fine. "You're not." He released her wrist but didn't step back. Around them the crowd had developed a perimeter, space where there shouldn't have been space. People deliberately not looking, while absolutely watching. "Do you know who I am?" Naomi laughed, the sound brittle even to her own ears. "Should I?" Something flickered across his face. Amusement maybe, or disbelief. "What's your name?" "Naomi." She swayed, caught herself. "Naomi Carter." "And you are?" "Marco DeLuca." He said it like she should genuflect, like the name itself carried weight. It did. She just didn't know it yet. "Cool." She tried to push past him. His arm blocked her path, not touching. Just there, an invisible barrier she suddenly understood she shouldn't cross. "I need to find my friend." "Jasmine Davis?" He tilted his head. "She left 20 minutes ago with Tommy Ricci. You've been wandering around my club alone ever since." His club. The words registered slowly, fighting through the fog in her brain. The way security suddenly appeared at the edges of her vision. The way the crowd had pulled back like water from a shark. The way he stood there, utterly relaxed, while radiating the kind of power that didn't need to announce itself. "I didn't," she swallowed hard. "I didn't mean anything by it. The kiss. You just what?" He stepped closer, not threatening. Worse, curious. "Thought you could put your hands on a stranger in my establishment without consequences? It was just a kiss." But her voice shook now, sobriety crashing through her system like ice water. "Nothing is just anything here, Naomi Carter." He studied her face like he was memorizing it. "You work at Romano's, West Side location. You take the 47 bus home because your car died 3 months ago and you can't afford to fix it. You live alone in that studio on Parkview, the one with the broken lock you keep meaning to report. You have $17 in your checking account." The air left her lungs. "How do you... This is my city. Simple. Final. And you just made yourself visible in it." He gestured. and a man in a black suit appeared with her coat, the threadbare pea-coat she'd left at check-in. "You're going home now. Thomas will drive you. I don't need—" "You don't understand what you just started." Marco's voice dropped lower, intimate and terrifying. "That kiss? In front of everyone here? People will talk. People will wonder who you are to me. People will make assumptions." He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "And some of those people are very dangerous when they assume wrong." Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. "I'm nobody. You were nobody." He straightened, already turning away, already done with her. "Now you're the girl who kissed Marco DeLuca in his own club and walked away. That makes you something, whether you wanted to be or not." Thomas, silent, enormous, waited by the door. Naomi's legs moved automatically, carrying her toward the exit, toward safety, toward whatever remained of her normal life. At the threshold, she looked back. Marco stood in the red light, perfectly still, watching her leave. His expression promised nothing, threatened nothing. But somehow, Naomi knew this wasn't over. The cold night air hit her face like a slap. Thomas opened the car door. She climbed inside. 3 seconds. That's all it had taken to kiss the wrong man. She just didn't know yet how wrong. The apartment door wouldn't lock. Naomi jiggled the handle for the 4th time, fingers trembling from adrenaline that refused to fade. Thomas had dropped her off 20 minutes ago, idling at the curb until she'd made it inside. His silence somehow more unnerving than any threat. Now she stood in her dim studio, still wearing Jasmine's borrowed dress, trying to pretend the last 2 hours hadn't happened. Her phone buzzed. "Jasmine. Finally. Oh my God, babe, where'd you go? Tommy took me to this insane after-party. You good?" Naomi stared at the message. Typed and deleted 3 responses. Settled on, home safe. Talk tomorrow. She peeled off the dress, stepped into the shower, let scalding water punish her skin. But even there, she couldn't escape the feeling of Marco's hand around her wrist, the weight of his attention, the way he'd known things specific, invasive things about her life. When she finally crawled into bed, sleep came in fractured pieces. She dreamed of red lights and dark eyes and a voice that promised consequences. Morning arrived with violent sunlight and the buzz of her phone. A number she didn't recognize. The hallway. Now. Naomi's stomach dropped. She pulled on sweatpants and a tank top, her heart rate climbing as she approached her door. Through the peephole, empty corridor. She opened it anyway. Marco leaned against the opposite wall. He looked different in daylight, sharper, more real. Charcoal suit, no tie, top button undone. His hair was still perfect. His eyes were still that unreadable black. And he was standing outside her apartment like he had every right to be there. "How did you get your address?" He pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them in 2 strides. "I told you last night. This is my city. That's not an answer. It's the only one you need." He glanced past her into the studio, taking in the unmade futon, the dishes in the sink, the life she'd built from nothing and kept afloat through sheer stubborn will. "May I?" "No." He smiled. Actually smiled. And it transformed his face into something almost human. Almost. "Smart girl. What do you want?" To clarify what happened last night. He stayed in the doorway, respecting the boundary even as his presence violated every sense of safety she had. "You kissed me. In front of 47 people, including 3 members of the Calabrese family, 2 corrupt city councilmen, and a federal prosecutor who drinks too much and talks too freely." Naomi's mouth went dry. "I didn't know." "No, you didn't." His voice carried no anger, just statement of fact. But they don't know that. What they saw was a beautiful black woman walk up to Marco DeLuca, a man most people are too terrified to look at directly and claim him. In public, without permission. "I wasn't claiming anything. I was drunk and stupid and—" "You were bold." He cut her off, something flickering in his expression. "Reckless. Fascinating. And now you're a question mark in a world where questions get people killed." The hallway tilted. Naomi grabbed the doorframe. "I'm nobody. I serve food and take buses and—" "You walked into my world." Marco's voice dropped to something intimate and terrible. "The moment your lips touched mine, you stopped being nobody. Now you're the mystery. Who is she? What does DeLuca want with a waitress? Is she a threat? A weakness? A message? I'm none of those things. I know." He studied her face with that same unnerving intensity from the club. But my enemies don't, and they will make you into whatever narrative serves them best. They'll follow you, photograph you, dig into your past until they find leverage, and when they do... Stop. Naomi's voice cracked. Just stop. I can't, this isn't... You think I'm trying to scare you? Marco leaned in, close enough that she could see gold flecks in those dark eyes. I'm trying to save your life. Because the alternative is waking up to find your studio on fire, or your bus never arriving, or your body in the river with no explanation and no one who cares enough to ask questions. Silence pressed down like physical weight. What do you want from me? Naomi whispered. Nothing yet. He straightened, already stepping back, already leaving. But I needed you to understand what you started. Who I am, what I control, and what do you control? Marco's smile returned, colder this time. Everything that matters. The docks, the imports, the construction contracts, the city council votes, the police precincts that look the other way when bodies turn up in certain neighborhoods. He paused at the stairwell. I control the violence, and more importantly, I control who it touches. You're threatening me. I'm protecting you. The distinction seemed important to him. From the consequences of your own impulse. Whether you want that protection or not. He descended 3 steps, then stopped, looked back. There are men in this city who answer to me, Naomi Carter. Men who have done things that would keep you awake for weeks if you knew the details. Men who execute orders without question, without mercy, without conscience. His gaze held hers. And every single one of them saw you kiss me last night. They're watching you now, waiting for my signal, waiting to see if you're a problem that needs solving. Ice flooded her veins. And am I? Not yet. He continued down the stairs, his footsteps echoing in the stairwell. But that could change. Naomi stayed frozen in her doorway long after he'd gone, her pulse hammering in her ears. She wanted to believe this was a nightmare. That she'd wake up and Marco DeLuca would be nothing but a drunken mistake she could laugh about later. But when she finally moved to close her door, she noticed it. The lock, the one that had been broken for 3 months, the one her landlord kept promising to fix. It worked perfectly now. Smooth, new, professional installation. And hanging from the handle, almost invisible in the dim hallway light, a single red rose with a note attached. You're welcome. M. Naomi's hands shook as she retreated inside, locking the door behind her. 1 lock, 2, 3, all of them new, all of them installed while she slept. Through her window, 4 stories down, a black car idled at the curb. She couldn't see the driver, didn't need to. She was being watched, protected, claimed, and the most terrifying part wasn't Marco's power or his threats, or the casual way he'd invaded her life. It was the small, dangerous part of her that didn't want to run. The email arrived at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after Marco's hallway visit. Naomi had almost convinced herself it was over, that he'd made his point and moved on to more important matters. She'd gone to her shifts at Romano's, endured her manager's abuse, rode the bus home. Normal, safe, boring. Then her phone chimed with a message from Jasmine. Girl, call me right now. Naomi dialed, stomach already sinking. They bought the company. Jasmine's voice trembled with excitement. Some Italian investment firm just bought controlling interest in Hendrix Marketing. Everyone's freaking out. They're restructuring, bringing in new management. And, she squealed, they want to interview ME for senior account manager. That's amazing, Naomi said automatically, her mind racing. Italian investment firm. Restructuring. When did this happen? Announcement came this morning. The firm is called DeLuca Enterprises. The phone nearly slipped from Naomi's hand. Naomi? You there? I'm here. Her voice sounded distant, underwater. That's great, Jazz. Really. They talked for another minute, Jasmine too elated to notice Naomi's distraction before hanging up. Naomi stared at her phone, watching as a new email notification appeared. From m.deluca@delucaenterprises.com. Subject: Employment opportunity. Her finger hovered over delete. She opened it instead. Miss Carter, DeLuca Enterprises is seeking a personal PR consultant for our CEO. Your unique perspective and discretion make you an ideal candidate. Please arrive at 432 Weston Tower, 47th floor, at 10 a.m. today. This is not a request. M. DeLuca. Naomi read it 3 times. Each time the words felt more like a summons. She checked the time. 7:15 a.m. Enough time to shower, change, and make the hour-long bus ride to the financial district. She should ignore it, delete the email, block the number, move to another city. Instead, she got dressed. Weston Tower gleamed like a knife blade in the morning sun. All glass and steel and money. Naomi had walked past it 100 times, never imagining she'd step inside. The lobby was cathedral quiet, her cheap flats squeaking against marble floors that probably cost more than her yearly rent. The elevator to the 47th floor required a key card. A security guard provided one without her asking, his face carefully neutral. The doors closed. Her reflection stared back, faded jeans, clearance rack blouse, hair pulled into a hasty bun. She looked exactly like what she was, someone who didn't belong. The elevator opened directly into an office that occupied the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a conquered territory. The furniture was minimalist and expensive, all clean lines and understated power. And in the center of it all, behind a desk that looked carved from a single piece of black marble, sat Marco De Luca. He looked up from his computer. "You're early. You said 10. It's 9:58. I said 10. Most people would arrive at 10:15, flustered and apologetic. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. You arrive on time and irritated. Interesting. I'm not taking a job from you. You haven't heard the offer. I don't need to." Naomi stayed near the elevator, poised for escape. Whatever this is buying Jasmine's company. The email, this office, I'm not interested. Marco walked around the desk, each step deliberate. Your friend is very talented. The acquisition was sound business regardless of you. But yes, it does create leverage. That's disgusting. That's reality. He stopped 5 feet away, giving her space she didn't trust. Sit. I'll stand. Then I'll be blunt. He pulled a tablet from his desk, tapped the screen, held it out. Do you recognize this man? The photo showed a corpse. Middle-aged, expensive suit, half his face missing. The image was clinical, clearly taken by someone documenting, not mourning. Naomi's stomach lurched. What? Victor Calabrese. Cousin to Sal Calabrese, who runs the East Side gambling operations. Marco's voice remained conversational, like he was discussing stock portfolios. He was at Inferno the night you kissed me. The next morning, he told 3 people you were my mistress, a lie that would have put a target on your back. I corrected the misunderstanding. Marco set down the tablet. Permanently. The room spun. Naomi grabbed the back of a chair. You killed him because he talked about me? I killed him because he was a problem waiting to happen. You were the excuse, not the reason. He moved closer. But it raises an important question. What do I do with you? Let me go. Pretend none of this happened. Too late. Marco circled her slowly, a predator assessing prey. You're already in the story. The question is which role you play. I don't want any role. Neither did I. Something flickered across his face, bitter, brief. But we don't choose our inheritances. My father built this empire on blood and silence. When he died, I could either continue the legacy or watch everything collapse into war. He stopped in front of her. I chose order. Control. Power that protects more than it destroys. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who understands that law and morality are negotiable concepts. He gestured to the windows. This city functions because of the balance I maintain. Police I keep honest. Politicians I keep compliant. Rival families I keep afraid. And you want me to what? Be your PR consultant? Naomi laughed, the sound edged with hysteria. Make you look good? I want you visible. Marco's tone shifted, became calculating. At events, meetings, places where being seen with me sends a message. That I'm your mistress. That you're mine. The possessive pronoun hung in the air. Property. Asset. Warning. Whatever keeps you alive. Naomi's vision blurred with rage. I'm not property. No, he agreed too easily. But you will pretend to be. Starting now. He returned to his desk, opened a drawer, pulled out another tablet. This one played audio crackling, distant, but unmistakably Naomi's voice. 50,000 or the photos go public. Your choice, Senator. Her blood turned to ice. You ran an extortion scheme 2 years ago, Marco said conversationally. Small time. Caught cheating politicians and executives, blackmailed them for cash. Made about 200,000 before you got smart and disappeared. I paid back every cent. I know. Very ethical of you. He stopped the recording. But the FBI doesn't care about your conscience. They care about felony extortion charges, and they have an open file with your name on it. Naomi's legs gave out. She sank into the chair. How do you— I own the agent who compiled it. Marco's smile was razor thin. Along with his supervisor. Your case has been buried for 18 months, but files can be rediscovered if I make a single call. The trap closed around her like a vice. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a choice. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Work for me, be seen with me, attend functions, play the role, and you're protected. From the FBI, from rival families, from the consequences of that impulsive kiss. And if I refuse, then I make the call. You're arrested by Friday, convicted within 6 months. Federal prison, minimum 3 years. He tilted his head. How long do you think a woman like you survives in that system? Naomi wanted to scream, to cry, to hurl the tablet through the window and watch it fall 47 floors. Instead, she forced herself to breathe, to think. You orchestrated all of this. No. Marco's voice softened fractionally. You walked into my club. You kissed me. The rest simply unfolded from that moment. I'm just better at seeing the patterns than most people. This isn't an offer. It's a cage. It's survival. He extended a hand. I'm not asking you to love me, Naomi, or even like me. I'm asking you to be smart enough to recognize when you've already lost. She stared at his hand, thought of Jasmine's promotion, of Victor Calabrese's destroyed face, of FBI files and prison cells and the slow death of everything she'd tried to build from the ashes of her past. 3 seconds to ruin your life. She'd already crossed that threshold. Naomi stood, ignored his hand, met his eyes directly. I'll do it, but I want guarantees. Such as, Jasmine stays safe. Completely. No leverage, no threats, no involvement. Marco nodded. Done. And I want access. His eyebrow rose. To what? Information. Files. Whatever you're really doing. Naomi surprised herself with her own boldness. If I'm going to be your public face, I need to understand what I'm protecting. For the first time, Marco looked genuinely impressed. You're not going to beg for your freedom? You already made it clear I don't have any. She crossed her arms. So if I'm trapped in your world, I might as well understand how it works. Silence stretched between them, assessment, calculation, a shift in the balance of power so subtle she almost missed it. Welcome to DeLuca Enterprises, Miss Carter. Marco's smile held something new. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Your first event is tomorrow night. Charity gala at the Waldorf. Black tie. I'll send a car at 7. I don't own anything appropriate. You will by this afternoon. He returned to his desk, already dismissing her. Thomas will take you shopping. My account. No budget. Naomi walked toward the elevator, each step feeling like descent into dark water. The doors opened. She stepped inside. Naomi. Marco's voice stopped her. She turned. He stood backlit by the city he claimed to own, his expression unreadable. You weren't recruited. You were claimed. The sooner you accept that, the easier this becomes. The doors closed on his words. Naomi stared at her reflection all the way down. The woman looking back wasn't the waitress who'd kissed a stranger on impulse. Wasn't the girl who'd survived by being invisible. She was something new. Something she didn't have a name for yet. Something that terrified her, but didn't make her want to run. The dress was a weapon. Naomi stared at her reflection in the full-length mirror of the hotel suite Marco had arranged for her preparation. Deep emerald silk, cut to devastate backless, slit to mid-thigh, elegant enough for charity but dangerous enough to be remembered. The woman in the mirror looked like someone who belonged in Marco's world. Someone powerful. Someone willing. The lie fit perfectly. Your car's here, Miss Carter. The stylist, a severe woman named Claudia, who'd spent 3 hours transforming her, gestured toward the door. Thomas waited in the hallway, his expression as neutral as always. In the elevator, he finally spoke. Mr. DeLuca wants you to stay within his sightline all evening. Romantic. Strategic. Thomas's jaw tightened. There are concerns about tonight. What kind of concerns? He didn't answer. The car ride to the Waldorf took 15 minutes of suffocating silence. The hotel's grand ballroom glittered with obscene wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. Women dripped diamonds. Men wore power like cologne, and standing near the bar, surrounded by a constellation of sycophants, was Marco. He looked like he'd been born in a tuxedo. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfectly dangerous. Their eyes met across the room. He excused himself immediately, cutting through the crowd with the ease of someone who knew they'd part for him. "You look devastating," he said quietly when he reached her. "I look expensive." Naomi accepted the champagne he offered. "Your money tends to have that effect." "My taste," he corrected, his hand settling on her lower back, possessive, public, exactly the message they'd agreed to send. "Come, I'll introduce you to people who matter." The next hour was a masterclass in performance. Marco introduced her as his personal consultant, a deliberately vague title that invited speculation. She smiled, deflected questions, played the part of the mystery woman just well enough to be intriguing without being threatening. She met a judge who owned 3 vacation homes, a police commissioner who laughed too loudly at Marco's jokes, a real estate developer who kept glancing at her cleavage while his wife pretended not to notice. Every person in the room had something to hide and someone to fear. "You're a natural," Marco murmured during a break, guiding her toward the balcony for air. "I'm a good liar." The night breeze cut through the ballroom heat. Below them, the city sprawled, millions of lives unfolding, unaware of the predators above them. "I've had practice." "Your extortion days?" "Before that," Naomi took a long sip of champagne, "my ex-husband. He liked to hurt me in ways that didn't leave visible marks. I got very good at smiling through pain." Marco's expression hardened. "Name." "Why? So I can destroy him." The casual brutality of the offer should have horrified her. Instead, Naomi felt something warm and dangerous unfurl in her chest. He's already destroyed, lost his job, his reputation, drinks himself to sleep now. Then I'll make sure he drinks himself to death. Marco wasn't joking. Before Naomi could respond, Thomas appeared at the balcony door, his face tight with tension. "We need to move. Now. What's wrong?" Marco's entire demeanor shifted from charming socialite to lethal predator in a heartbeat. "Chatter. Something's happening." The first gunshot cracked through the ballroom. Chaos erupted. Screaming, shattering glass, bodies hitting the floor. Marco grabbed Naomi, pulling her behind a marble column as another shot rang out. This one closer, the bullet embedding in the wall inches from where they'd been standing. "Stay down." Marco's gun appeared from somewhere sleek, black, professional. He moved with military precision, calculating trajectories, searching for the shooter. Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. She was a waitress playing dress-up, not someone who belonged in a firefight. "There," Thomas pointed toward the upper gallery. "Sniper. East side." Marco's eyes found hers. "When I move, you run for the south exit. Don't stop. Don't look back. I'm not leaving you. That wasn't a request." He gripped her arm. 3 seconds. "Ready?" Another shot. This one shattered the champagne flute in Thomas's hand, glass exploding in a shower of sharp fragments. Marco moved. He burst from cover, firing twice toward the gallery in rapid succession. The sniper's rifle cracked again and Marco stumbled, his shoulder blooming red. "No." The word tore from Naomi's throat. Marco spun, still firing, blood streaming down his tuxedo. "Run!" But Naomi couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but watch as Marco dropped to one knee, his gun steady even as his body betrayed him. Thomas returned fire, providing cover. More security poured into the ballroom. Marco's men, not hotel staff, their weapons drawn and lethal. The sniper abandoned his position, and Naomi caught a glimpse of him fleeing through the gallery, young, professional, terrified. Marco collapsed against a column, his face gray with pain. Naomi finally moved, sliding to his side, her hands immediately going to his shoulder. Blood soaked through silk, hot and viscous. "You should have run," Marco gritted out. "Shut up." She pressed both hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Thomas, get a car." "Already here." Thomas helped lift Marco. "Move." Before police arrive. They half-carried, half-dragged Marco through the service exit. A black SUV idled in the alley, engine running. They piled inside, and the driver accelerated before the door fully closed. Marco slumped against the seat, his breathing labored. The shooter. Calderon family. Thomas applied pressure to the wound. "Professional hit. We're tracking him now. Find him." Marco's voice was fading. "Kill him. Send the body back in pieces." "Marco." Naomi grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "Stay awake. Where are we going?" "Safe house." His eyes struggled to focus. "Can't go to hospital." "Too many questions." The drive took 20 minutes that felt like hours. The safe house was a brownstone in a neighborhood that shouldn't exist. Wealthy, quiet, invisible. No neighbors, no witnesses. Inside, a medical setup that looked too professional to be improvised. A doctor waited, stone-faced and efficient. Bullet? Still in him. Thomas helped Marco onto a surgical table. How bad? He'll live. The doctor began cutting away Marco's shirt. But he needs to stay still for at least a week. Marco laughed. The sound pained. Not possible. Then you'll die. The doctor's voice was flat. Your choice. While the doctor worked, Thomas made calls, clipped, urgent conversations in Italian. Naomi stood in the corner, still wearing her deadly dress, her hands covered in Marco's blood. She should be hysterical, should be crying, should be demanding they take her home. Instead, she watched Marco's face as the doctor dug into his shoulder, watched him refuse anesthetic, refuse pain medication, refuse anything that would compromise his clarity. You took that bullet for me, Naomi said quietly when the room had cleared, leaving just the two of them. Marco lay on the surgical table, his shoulder bandaged, his skin pale but his eyes sharp. I didn't have a choice. You moved into the line of fire. He was aiming for you. Marco's voice carried certainty. The angle, the timing. That bullet had your name on it. Why would anyone want me dead? I'm nobody. You're mine. He said it like that explained everything. That makes you a target, a message, a way to hurt me. The possessive pronoun should have angered her. Instead, it sent electricity through her veins. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I. Marco struggled to sit up, wincing. But here we are. Naomi moved closer, her hands hovering uselessly. Let me help. You have. His hand caught hers, bloody fingers threading through hers. You stayed. You didn't run. Most people would have. I'm not most people. No. His smile was bitter and beautiful. You're really not. Thomas burst into the room, his expression grim. We found the shooter. Already? Marco's grip on Naomi's hand tightened. He was waiting at the extraction point. Made it too easy. Thomas glanced at Naomi, then back to Marco. He's in the basement. Alive. For now. Marco tried to stand. Naomi pushed him back down. You're not going anywhere. He tried to kill you. And you nearly died protecting me. Her voice broke. So let me handle this. Silence. Marco studied her face with that unnerving intensity. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. Naomi held his gaze. If I'm part of your world, if I'm claimed, if I'm yours, then I need to understand all of it, including the violence. Something shifted in Marco's expression. Pride, maybe, or horror at what she was becoming. Thomas, give her your gun. Thomas hesitated, then pulled a Glock from his holster, offering it handle first. Naomi had never held a gun. The weight felt wrong and right simultaneously. Show me how. Marco guided her hands with his good arm, correcting her grip, her stance. Safety's here. Point. Breathe. Squeeze. Don't pull. That's it? That's execution. He released her hands. The basement's through the kitchen. Steel door. The man down there destroyed the life you were building. He tried to kill you. He failed. Marco's eyes burned into hers. What happens next is your choice. Naomi descended the stairs on shaking legs. The basement was concrete and shadows. The shooter sat zip-tied to a chair young, maybe 25. Bleeding from somewhere Thomas had already hurt him. His eyes widened when he saw her. Please, he started. Naomi raised the gun. Who sent you? Calderon. Santiago Calderon. He said you were leverage against DeLuca. Wrong answer. Naomi's hands steadied. You pointed a weapon at me. You shot the man She stopped, surprised by her own words. You tried to end my life for money. It's just business. So is this. Naomi pulled the trigger. The recoil slammed through her arms. The sound deafened her. The body slumped forward, blood pooling on concrete. She'd killed someone. She should feel horror, guilt, something human. Instead, she felt nothing. Just the cold certainty that the woman who'd walked into Inferno 3 days ago was gone, and whoever she was becoming didn't need that woman anymore. Upstairs, Marco waited. When Naomi emerged, still holding the gun, still covered in blood that wasn't hers, he nodded once. Now you understand, he said quietly. Naomi set the gun on the table. Yes, I do. They crossed a line that night. Not into love. Into something far more dangerous. Recognition. Dawn arrived in shades of gray. Naomi sat in the safe house kitchen, her third cup of coffee going cold between her hands. She'd showered, scrubbed her skin raw, trying to remove blood that was already gone, but the weight of what she'd done clung like a second skin. The shooter's face kept flashing through her mind. Not his death. His fear. The moment he'd realized she would actually pull the trigger. She'd felt nothing then. Still felt nothing now. That absence of horror should horrify her. You should sleep. Marco's voice came from the doorway. He leaned against the frame, shirtless, his shoulder wrapped in fresh bandages. The doctor had ordered him to rest. He'd ignored that order immediately. I'm not tired. Naomi didn't look at him. Shouldn't you be unconscious? Should be. He moved into the kitchen with careful precision, favoring his good side. But I've never been good at following medical advice. You've been shot before. It wasn't a question. He answered anyway. 3 times. This one barely qualifies. You could have died. But I didn't. Marco poured himself coffee, added nothing to it, drank it black. Thanks to you. I killed someone. The words fell flat, factual. I shot a man in the head and felt nothing. Good. Naomi's head snapped up. Good? Guilt is a luxury in our world. Marco set down his mug. It means you're still human enough to question yourself. But it's also a weakness. It makes you hesitate. He moved closer, his dark eyes searching hers. Did you hesitate last night? No. Then you survived. That's what matters. Naomi laughed, bitter and broken. Is that what I'm doing? Surviving? Aren't you? Marco pulled out the chair across from her, sitting with a barely suppressed wince. 2 weeks ago, you were serving food to people who didn't see you as human. Yesterday, you stood in a basement and executed a man who tried to end your life. You didn't collapse, didn't run, didn't fall apart. His voice softened fractionally. You're stronger than you think, Naomi Carter. I'm terrified. Good. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. Fear keeps you sharp, makes you careful. The people who get killed in this business are the ones who think they're invincible. Like you? Especially like me. His smile held self-awareness she hadn't seen before. I've survived this long because I understand my own mortality. Every decision is calculated risk. Every relationship is potential betrayal. Every moment could be the last. That sounds exhausting. It is. Marco's thumb traced her knuckles gentle, almost tender. But it's also freeing. When you accept that death is always present, you stop wasting time on pretense. Naomi studied his face in the pale morning light. Blood loss had stripped away some of his usual armor, leaving something rawer beneath. Is that why you do this? Build an empire on violence and fear? I do this because it's my inheritance. His voice turned cold. My father built DeLuca Enterprises on the bodies of his enemies. When he died, I had 2 choices. Continue the legacy, or let everything collapse into chaos. Rival families would have torn apart what he built. Innocent people would have died in the crossfire. So you chose to be a monster to prevent worse monsters. I chose order over anarchy. Marco released her hand, leaned back. My father was brutal but necessary. I'm trying to be necessary without the brutality. It's not always possible. Victor Calabrese was threatening to rape you in front of his cousins. Marco's voice dropped to something lethal. He called you a black whore who needed to be taught her place. He had plans detailed, specific plans for what he'd do once he'd found you alone. Naomi's stomach churned. You never told me that. Because you didn't need to know. His eyes held hers. But you should understand. I don't kill carelessly. Every death serves a purpose. Victor's purpose was to send a message: anyone who threatens what's mine dies badly. I'm not a possession. No, Marco's voice softened, but you're under my protection. And in this world, that's the same thing. Silence settled between them. Not comfortable, but not hostile either. Just honest. Raw in a way their previous interactions hadn't been. Tell me about your father, Naomi said quietly. Marco's jaw tightened. Why? Because I want to understand what made you. She met his gaze steadily. You know everything about me, my ex-husband, my extortion past, my bus routes and bank account. But I know nothing about you except that you're dangerous and you claim to protect me. For a long moment, Marco didn't speak. Then, my father was Antonio DeLuca, second-generation immigrant, who built a legitimate import business that happened to import very illegitimate things. Drugs, weapons, People, when necessary. He spoke like he was reading a file. He married my mother for strategic reasons. She was from the Benedetti family, old Sicilian money. She died when I was 8. Ovarian cancer. I'm sorry. Don't be. She barely tolerated me. Marco's smile held no warmth. I was the heir, the investment. She treated me like a project, not a son. When she died, my father sent me to boarding school in Switzerland. I saw him twice a year until I was 18. That's cruel. That's practical. But something flickered in his expression, old pain, carefully buried. He needed me educated, refined, capable of moving in legitimate circles. You can't run a criminal empire if you look like a criminal. So I learned languages, business, art history, how to wear a suit, how to shake hands with politicians, how to lie with a smile. When did you learn the rest? The violence. Marco's voice turned harder. Summer of my 19th birthday. My father brought me home and took me to a warehouse in Brooklyn. There was a man zip-tied to a chair, one of our accountants who'd been skimming. My father handed me a gun and told me to execute him. Naomi's breath caught. Did you? No. Marco looked away. I hesitated. The man begged, cried, promised to return the money, and I couldn't pull the trigger. What happened? My father shot him himself. Then he beat me unconscious. Marco's voice remained flat, clinical. When I woke up, he explained that hesitation gets people killed, that mercy is weakness, that if I wanted to survive in this world, I needed to understand. We're not the good guys. We're the ones who make hard choices so others don't have to. That's psychotic. That's reality. Marco finally looked back at her. 2 weeks later, he took me to another warehouse. Different man, same crime. This time I didn't hesitate. I pulled the trigger. Felt nothing. Went home and slept perfectly. Jesus Christ. No God in our business. His smile was bitter. Just consequences and survival. My father trained me for 5 years, teaching me every aspect of the operation. Then he had a heart attack during a meeting with the Calabrese family. Died before the ambulance arrived. I was 24. Unprepared. Terrified. But you survived. Barely. Marco's hands curled into fists. The first year was chaos. Every family tried to take territory. I fought 7 wars in 12 months. Killed more people than I can count. Became the thing my father wanted: efficient, ruthless, untouchable. And now? Now I'm trying to be something different. He met her eyes. My father built an empire on terror. I'm trying to build one on control. Calculated violence instead of chaos. Fear that serves a purpose instead of fear for its own sake. Is it working? Ask me in 5 years. Marco's smile turned self-deprecating. If I'm still alive. Naomi absorbed this. The weight of his history. The calculated construction of the man he'd become. My father was nothing like yours, she said quietly. Tell me. He was a mechanic. Worked 16-hour days to keep our family afloat. Never raised his voice. Never raised a hand. Naomi's voice cracked. When I was 17, he had a stroke. Medical bills destroyed us. We lost the house. My mother left. Just walked away one morning and never came back. And your father? Lasted another 2 years. Died in a state facility because I couldn't afford better care. Tears burned her eyes. I was working 3 jobs and it still wasn't enough. He died alone because I was serving food to rich people who left me $2 tips. Marco reached across the table, his hand covering hers. That's why you started the extortion. I wanted to punish them. Naomi's voice turned fierce. All those men in expensive suits who'd grope me during shifts and leave nothing. Politicians who'd preach family values while fucking mistresses in hotel rooms. I wanted them to hurt the way I hurt. Did it work? For a while, she wiped her eyes, until I realized I was becoming something I hated. Someone who used people's mistakes against them. So I stopped, paid back the money, tried to disappear into normal life, and then you kissed me. And then I kissed you. Naomi laughed through tears. Worst decision I ever made. Or the best. Marco's thumb traced her wrist. You're not invisible anymore, Naomi. You're not serving food to people who don't see you. You're sitting across from a man who sees exactly who you are and isn't afraid of it. You should be. She met his eyes. I killed someone last night and felt nothing. That makes me a monster. That makes you a survivor. His voice turned intense. And in my world, that's the only thing that matters. The air between them shifted, charged with something beyond fear or obligation. something dangerous and inevitable. Naomi stood abruptly. You need rest. I need, Marco started. Rest. She moved toward the door, then stopped, looked back. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for staying. His voice followed her. Most people wouldn't have. Naomi climbed the stairs to the second floor, where Thomas had set up a guest room. She lay down on the bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. She'd killed a man. Learned her protector's brutal origin story. Crossed every line she'd once drawn for herself. And the most terrifying part wasn't the violence or the danger or the blood. It was how natural it felt. How right. Like she'd been preparing for this moment her entire life without knowing it. Downstairs, Marco remained at the kitchen table, his shoulder throbbing, his mind racing. Naomi Carter had walked into his world by accident. She'd stayed by choice. Now she was changing it, changing him, and he didn't know if that was salvation or destruction. The text came at 2:17 a.m., 3 days after the shooting. Naomi had been staying at the safe house, sleeping in the guest room, avoiding Marco except for brief kitchen encounters that felt charged with everything they wouldn't say. Thomas had posted guards at every entrance. The doctor visited daily to check Marco's shoulder. Life existed in a holding pattern, waiting for the next move. Then her phone lit up. Jasmine, I need to see you. It's urgent. Please. Naomi stared at the screen. She hadn't spoken to Jasmine since the acquisition, hadn't known what to say, how to explain that her best friend's promotion was collateral damage in a game neither of them had chosen. Where? She typed back. Our coffee shop. 8 a.m. Come alone. Naomi should have told Marco immediately. Should have recognized the red flags, the late-night text, the urgency, the insistence on privacy. Instead, at 7:30 a.m., she slipped out the safe house's back entrance, telling the guard she needed air. Rode the bus to their old meeting spot, a ratty coffee shop near Hendrix Marketing, where she and Jasmine had spent countless mornings complaining about life. Jasmine sat in their usual booth, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly rent. Her makeup was perfect. Her smile was wrong. Hey. Naomi slid into the seat across from her, her instincts screaming warnings she couldn't quite interpret. You look good. The new job has perks. Jasmine's voice carried brittleness. I wanted to thank you. For what? For whatever you did with Marco DeLuca that got me this position. Jasmine's smile sharpened. You're sleeping with him, right? That's how this works? Naomi's stomach dropped. That's not what... Don't lie to me. Jasmine leaned forward. I've seen the photos. You at the Waldorf Gala in a dress that costs more than my car. You leaving his office building. You two all over each other at Inferno before everything went to shit. Jas, listen. I already know. She cut Naomi off. Marco DeLuca bought my company to control you. You're his mistress or his whore, or whatever rich criminals call it these days. And because of that, I got promoted. Her laugh was bitter. I should be grateful. Instead, I feel dirty. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Naomi? Jasmine's composure cracked. Because from where I'm sitting, you disappeared into his world and left me with the consequences. Do you know what people are saying about me? That I slept my way to this position. That I'm only senior account manager because my best friend is fucking the boss. Guilt crushed Naomi's chest. I never meant. I don't care what you meant. Jasmine's voice turned cold. I care what you did. And what you did was ruin both our reputations. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate. I'm so sorry, Jas. I didn't ask for any of this, but you're living it anyway. Jasmine stood, gathering her designer bag. I needed you to know. I'm done. Done being your friend. Done being collateral damage in whatever fucked up situation you've gotten yourself into. Jasmine, please. But she was already walking away, leaving Naomi alone in their booth with cold coffee and the wreckage of their friendship. Naomi sat there for 20 minutes. Numb. Then she called an Uber back to the safe house. Marco was waiting in the foyer, his face thunderous. Where the hell were you? Coffee with Jasmine. Naomi brushed past him. She hates me now. Happy? Ecstatic. His voice dripped sarcasm. Do you have any idea how stupid that was? Leaving without security? Meeting someone alone? She's my best friend. She's a liability. Marco grabbed her arm, spinning her to face him. And she just sold you out. Ice flooded Naomi's veins. What? Thomas tracked her phone. She made 3 calls immediately after you left. 1 to Santiago Calderon, One to an FBI agent named Marcus Webb, and one to your ex-husband. The world tilted sideways. No, she wouldn't. She already did. Marco pulled up security footage on his phone, grainy but clear. Jasmine in the parking lot, phone pressed to her ear, talking animatedly. Calderon offered her $200,000 for information about you, your schedule, your location, your relationship with me. You're lying. But Naomi's voice wavered. I wish I was. Marco's expression held no satisfaction. Your best friend chose money over loyalty. And now she's actively working with the people trying to kill you. Naomi sank onto the stairs, her legs giving out. Why would she? We've been friends since before you had value. Marco's voice gentled fractionally. People change when money enters the equation. Friendship doesn't survive greed. How long have you known? About Jasmine? Marco hesitated. From the beginning. Rage exploded through Naomi's grief. You knew and you didn't tell me? I needed to see how far she'd go. His voice remained calm, clinical, and I needed you to see it yourself. Otherwise you'd never believe me. You used me. Naomi stood, her fists clenched. You let me walk into that coffee shop knowing she'd betrayed me. You let me sit there and listen to her tear apart our friendship while you had proof she sold me out. Yes. No apology. No excuse. Just confirmation. You're a monster. I'm practical. Marco moved closer. If I'd told you she was compromised, you would have defended her. Made excuses. Tried to save a friendship that was already dead. His eyes held hers. Now you know. Without question. Without doubt. Your best friend chose money over your life. Naomi wanted to hit him. To scream. To collapse into tears. Instead, she forced herself to breathe. To think past the devastation. What else haven't you told me? Marco's jaw tightened. What do you mean? I mean, Naomi's voice shook with fury. If you knew about Jasmine from the beginning, what else did you know? What else did you orchestrate? Silence. Heavy. Damning. Marco. Her voice dropped to something dangerous. What else? He walked to the living room, poured himself whiskey at 8:30 inches the morning, drank it in one swallow. When he finally spoke, his back was still turned. The kiss. What about it? It wasn't random. Marco set down the glass. You walking into Inferno that night, being drunk enough to approach me, the entire situation. Naomi's blood turned to ice. What are you saying? I'm saying, he turned to face her. I've been watching you for 6 months. Ever since you paid back the extortion money and disappeared. I was curious about the woman who'd developed enough conscience to return her ill-gotten gains. So I kept tabs. You've been stalking me. I've been assessing you. His voice remained steady. Your routines, your friends, your vulnerabilities. And when I learned you'd be at Inferno that night thanks to Jasmine, actually, who mentioned it to Tommy Ricci during their first date, I made sure you'd have the opportunity to approach me. The drinks. Realization crashed through her. Jasmine said they were on the house from a promoter. Tommy. Under my orders. Marco's expression held no remorse. 2 drinks. Precisely measured to lower inhibitions without incapacitating. Enough to make you bold, not enough to render you unable to consent. You drugged me. I facilitated a situation. He moved closer. The kiss was still your choice, Naomi. Your impulse, your action. I simply created the conditions where that choice became possible. Naomi couldn't breathe. Why? Because I needed someone like you. Marco's voice turned intense. Someone smart. Someone desperate enough to take risks, but moral enough to have limits. Someone who could move between worlds legitimate and criminal without belonging fully to either. For what? For the war that's coming. He gestured to the city beyond the windows. Santiago Calderon isn't just a rival boss. He's connected to cartels, to corrupt federal agents, to politicians I can't touch. He's been systematically undermining my operations for 2 years, and I can't fight him directly without triggering a conflict that destroys the city. So you decided to use me as bait. I decided to give you a choice. Marco's eyes burned into hers. That kiss made you visible. Victor Calabrese's execution made you notorious. The shooting at the Waldorf made you sympathetic. Now you're a story, the innocent waitress caught in Marco De Luca's world, and that story serves a purpose. What purpose? Drawing out my enemies. His voice turned cold. Calderon thinks you're my weakness. Your ex-husband thinks you're his ticket to destroying me. The FBI thinks you're leverage. They're all wrong. You're not my weakness. You're my weapon. Naomi backed away, her mind reeling. Everything the job offer, the protection, the safe house, it was all manipulation. It was all strategy. Marco didn't follow, giving her space. But that doesn't make it a lie. I do protect you. I did take a bullet for you, and I will burn down everyone who tries to hurt you. Those things are real. Because I'm useful. Because you matter. His voice softened. I didn't expect that part, Naomi. I expected you to be a tool. A means to an end. Instead, you became... He stopped. Something else. What? What did I become? Someone I don't want to sacrifice. Marco's composure finally cracked. I've orchestrated everything since that kiss. Your friend's betrayal. The shooter at the gala. Your ex-husband's involvement with Calderon. All of it designed to create the perfect trap. And you were always meant to be the bait I'd willingly lose. But I can't do it. He closed the distance between them, his hands framing her face. I can't send you into that warehouse knowing what happens next. Can't use you as expendable collateral. Can't finish the plan I started. Naomi should push him away. Should run. Should hate him for the calculated cruelty of his manipulation. Instead, she kissed him. Hard, angry, desperate, pouring 6 months of orchestrated tragedy into the press of her lips against his. He kissed her back with equal fury. This wasn't tenderness. It was war waged through touch. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Naomi's voice was steady. Tell me the plan. No, tell me. She gripped his shirt. You said I'm your weapon. So use me. Whatever trap you built, whatever role I was meant to play, I'll do it. Not because you manipulated me into it. Because I'm choosing it. You don't understand what you're choosing. I killed a man 3 days ago. Her voice turned fierce. I survived an assassination attempt. I just watched my best friend betray me for cash. I understand exactly what I'm choosing, so stop protecting me and tell me the fucking plan. Marco stared at her, this woman who'd walked into his world by design but stayed by defiance. You were supposed to die. Poetic. Details. Calderon wants leverage against me. Your ex-husband Marcus Webb is his inside man at the FBI. They've been planning to kidnap you from the safe house, use you to force me into a meeting, then kill us both. Marco's voice turned clinical. I've known about the plan for weeks. I was going to let them take you, track them to their headquarters, then eliminate everyone simultaneously, using me as bait, letting them think you're bait, while you're actually wired with tracking devices and weapons they won't find. His hands dropped from her face. But the plan required me to let them hurt you first, to make it believable, and I can't. Yes, you can. Naomi's voice was steel. Because I'm not the waitress you've been watching anymore. I'm not the woman who apologizes for existing. I'm someone who kills without hesitation and walks away clean. Naomi. When? She cut him off. When do they make their move? Marco's expression shifted surprise. Respect. Something darker. Tomorrow night. Midnight. They'll hit the safe house with 12 men. Jasmine already gave them the security layout. Then we have 24 hours to prepare. Naomi stepped back, her decision made. Tell me everything I need to know. Every weapon, every exit, every contingency. And Marco? Yes? Stop trying to save me. Her smile was cold and beautiful. I don't need saving. I need revenge. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m., 14 hours before Calderon's planned attack. Naomi stood backstage at the conference center, watching Marco work the room through a gap in the curtains. He'd transformed overnight. Gone was the wounded man from the safe house, replaced by the ruthless executive the city feared. Perfect suit, perfect smile, perfect lie. You understand what happens next, Thomas said quietly beside her. He destroys my reputation. Naomi's voice remained steady. Calls me a criminal, a con artist. Makes it look like he's cutting ties to protect his legitimate business interests. He's going to say things that will hurt. Good. She met Thomas's concerned gaze. Pain makes it believable, and we need Calderon to believe I'm worthless to Marco. That kidnapping me won't matter. It matters to him, Thomas said quietly. More than he's admitting. Then he should have thought of that before he orchestrated my entire life. Naomi's voice hardened. Now shut up and let me watch. Marco took the podium, the room falling silent. 24 reporters, multiple cameras, the entire city watching. Thank you for coming. His voice carried authority. I'm here to address recent rumors and clarify my relationship with a former employee. Naomi's stomach clenched. Naomi Carter was briefly employed by DeLuca Enterprises as a PR consultant. During her tenure, I discovered troubling information about her past. Marco's expression turned severe. Miss Carter has a history of extortion and fraud. She deliberately concealed this information during the hiring process. The reporters erupted with questions. Marco continued over them. Furthermore, Miss Carter attempted to leverage our professional relationship into something inappropriate. When I declined, she began spreading false narratives about our association. His voice turned colder. Let me be clear. I have no romantic or personal connection to this woman. She is a con artist who saw an opportunity and exploited it. Naomi's nails dug into her palms. As of this morning, Miss Carter's employment with DeLuca Enterprises is terminated. All business relationships severed. Any claims she makes about me or my company should be understood in the context of her documented criminal history. A reporter shouted, "Are you pressing charges?" No. Marco's smile was cruel. Miss Carter is beneath my attention. I'm simply ensuring the public understands. She is nothing to me. A brief mistake, easily corrected. The words landed like physical blows. Naomi forced herself to remain impassive, to breathe through the calculated devastation of her reputation. Does this have anything to do with the shooting at the Waldorf? Another reporter asked. That incident was unrelated to Miss Carter. Wrong place, wrong time. I regret that she was present, but it doesn't change the fundamental facts. She is a fraud who attempted to exploit her proximity to me. Mr. DeLuca, can you comment on reports that Miss Carter was your mistress? Marco's laugh was dismissive. Absolutely not. I have standards. Miss Carter was never anything more than a regrettable employee who brought her criminal past into my organization. 30 minutes of systematic destruction. Marco answered every question with clinical precision, each response another nail in the coffin of Naomi's public image. By the time he finished, she was a national punchline, the con artist who tried to trap a billionaire, failed, and got exposed. Social media exploded immediately. Every major outlet carried the clip within minutes, amplified by political bloggers and finance networks hungry for scandal. Number Naomi Carter trended within an hour. Opinion pieces appeared, The Modern Gold Digger, Criminal Lies, and Elite Men, when extortion masquerades as romance. Her face was everywhere. Her past laid bare. Her reputation burned to ashes and scattered in the wind. Thomas drove her back to the safe house in silence. The silence pressed against her skull, every breath scraping past the ache he had carved into her name. Inside, Marco waited, his expression carefully neutral. Well done, he said quietly. Naomi's hand cracked across his face before she could stop herself. The slap echoed through the room. Marco didn't flinch, didn't touch the red mark blooming on his cheek. You said it would hurt. Naomi's voice shook with rage. You didn't say it would be complete annihilation. It had to be believable. His voice remained steady. Calderon's people are monitoring everything. If I'd shown even a hint of caring, they'd know it was a trap. You called me worthless. I called you nothing. Marco's eyes met hers. There's a difference. Semantics. She turned away, her entire body trembling. My name is destroyed. My face is on every news site with the word con artist attached. When this is over, I can't just go back to normal life. When this is over, you won't want to. He moved closer. You've already crossed too many lines, Naomi. There's no going back to waitressing and bus routes. You're either all in, or you're a liability I can't afford. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. His voice softened. I didn't burn your old life to hurt you. I burned it because you don't fit there anymore. The woman who pulled that trigger in the basement? She can't serve food with a smile and pretend to be invisible. So what am I supposed to do? Become your weapon permanently? Become yourself. Marco's hand touched her shoulder. The version that stopped apologizing for existing. The one that kills without remorse and demands respect instead of asking for it. Naomi closed her eyes, fighting tears she refused to shed. I hate you. I know. His thumb traced her neck. But you'll survive anyway. That's what makes you perfect. They spent the next 10 hours preparing. Marco walked her through the safe house layout, showing her where Calderon's men would breach. Thomas rigged her with tracking devices in her clothes, her shoes, even a subdermal chip in her shoulder blade. They gave her a gun, showed her where to hide it. Made her practice drawing it 50 times until the motion became muscle memory. They'll search you, Thomas warned, but not thoroughly. They think you're a civilian. They'll miss the ankle holster. At 11:45 p.m., Marco pulled her aside. Last chance to back out. No. Naomi checked her weapon one final time. We end this tonight. When they take you, they'll think I'm terrified. I'll cry, beg, play the victim. Her smile was sharp. I'm very good at pretending to be helpless. You're terrifying, Marco said, and it sounded like a compliment. I learned from the best. At midnight exactly, the attack began. 12 men, just as Marco had predicted. They breached through the basement. Thomas had left it deliberately vulnerable. Gunfire erupted upstairs, staged resistance from Marco's guards who'd been ordered to lose convincingly. Naomi hid in the bedroom closet, her gun pressed against her thigh, her heart hammering. The door kicked open. Rough hands dragged her out. She screamed, genuinely terrified despite the plan, despite the preparation. They zip-tied her wrists, threw a hood over her head. In the chaos, she heard Marco's voice. Let her go. A gunshot. Silence. They threw her into a van. The drive lasted 40 minutes, long enough for tracking devices to mark the route. When the hood came off, she was in a warehouse at the port. Santiago Calderon waited, flanked by armed men. And standing beside him, wearing an FBI vest like a shield, Marcus Webb, her ex-husband. Hello, Naomi, Marcus said. Long time. Marcus Webb looked exactly as Naomi remembered, weak chin, calculating eyes, the kind of average face that inspired trust in people who should know better. He'd gained weight since their divorce, his FBI vest straining against a gut built from years of sitting behind desks and ruining lives through paperwork. You got fat, Naomi said, her voice steady despite the zip ties cutting into her wrists. His smile tightened. You got stupid. Fucking a mobster? Really? That's your post-divorce crisis? Better than fucking you. She looked around the warehouse, vast, empty, the kind of place bodies disappeared. Though I'll admit the company's similar. Both of you are garbage pretending to be human. Santiago Calderon laughed, a rich, warm sound completely at odds with the situation. I like her. Marco has good taste. Had, Marcus corrected. He's done with her now. Made that very clear this morning. Yes. Calderon circled Naomi like she was merchandise. That press conference was brutal. Nothing to me. A brief mistake. Tell me, how did that feel? Like watching someone burn down a house I didn't want to live in anyway. Naomi met his eyes directly. You think I care what Marco DeLuca says about me? The man's a monster who orchestrated my entire life. I'd kill him myself if I had the chance. Convincing. Calderon's smile sharpened, but unnecessary. We know the press conference was theater. Marco doesn't burn bridges unless he's planning to rebuild them later. Naomi's stomach dropped, but she kept her expression neutral. You're giving him too much credit. And you're giving me too little intelligence. Calderon gestured to one of his men. Search her. Thoroughly. The guard moved forward. Naomi's breath caught if they found the tracking devices. The gun, the plan collapsed. But the man patted her down carelessly, checking obvious places, missing the ankle holster because he was looking for weapons a terrified civilian wouldn't carry. She's clean, he reported. Good. Calderon pulled out a phone, dialed. We have her. Warehouse 7, Port District. On speaker, Marco's voice, tight with controlled rage. If you hurt her, you'll what? Calderon interrupted. You made it very clear this morning she means nothing to you. A con artist. A regrettable mistake. So why would you care if I hurt her? Silence on the other end. Naomi's heart hammered. That's what I thought. Calderon's voice turned businesslike. Here's what happens next. You come alone, unarmed. We talk about territory realignment. You give me the docks and the construction contracts. In exchange, I let your nothing walk away. Fine. Marco's voice was flat. 1 hour, 30 minutes. Calderon ended the call, smiling at Naomi. See? Theater. He'll come. Because despite his performance this morning, Marco DeLuca doesn't abandon his investments. I'm not his investment, Naomi said. I'm his mistake. He said so himself. Keep telling yourself that. Calderon gestured to his men. Put her in the office. And Marcus? Make sure she's properly secured. I don't trust this one. Marcus grabbed Naomi's arm, dragging her toward a glass-walled office overlooking the warehouse floor. Inside, he shoved her into a chair, checked her zip ties, added another set around her ankles. You always were careless, he said conversationally. That's why our marriage failed. You never thought through consequences. Our marriage failed because you're a coward who hits women when you're drunk. Naomi's voice turned cold. How many times did you fall down the stairs, Marcus? How many black eyes did I explain away? You were mouthy. He shrugged. Still are, apparently. And you're still pathetic. She leaned forward. Working with cartels now? That's a new low, even for you. It's called survival. Marcus checked his phone. The Bureau doesn't pay shit. Calderon does. And when Marco's dead, I'll be the federal agent who helped bring down the city's biggest criminal. Win-win. Except you'll be a murderer. I'll be a hero. He smiled. And you'll be a tragic casualty of gang violence. The con artist who got caught in the crossfire. Really, I'm doing you a favor. You were always destined for a bad end. At least my end won't be what's coming for you. Naomi's voice dropped. Because you're wrong about one thing. What's that? I'm not careless anymore. She snapped the zip ties they'd been pre-cut, replaced during Thomas's fake search with breakaway versions. I'm strategic. Her hand found the gun in her ankle holster. Marcus lunged. She fired twice center mass, just like Marco taught her. Marcus collapsed, blood spreading across his FBI vest. He tried to speak, couldn't, and Naomi leaned down. That's for every time you hit me. She pulled a small device from her pocket, the real tracking beacon. And this is for thinking I was still the woman who apologized. She activated it. Outside the office, chaos erupted. Marco's forces hit the warehouse from 3 sides simultaneously. Not a rescue, an execution. Calderon's men returned fire. But they'd been positioned expecting a negotiation, not an assault. The element of surprise was absolute. Naomi stayed in the office, watching through the glass as Marco moved through the warehouse like death in a suit. He didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, just fired with surgical precision, each bullet finding its target. Thomas came through the east entrance with 10 men. More poured from the west. They had Calderon's forces surrounded, outgunned, outmaneuvered, but Calderon himself was nowhere visible. Rooftop, Naomi whispered, seeing movement through the skylights. She burst from the office, sprinting toward the stairs. Behind her, Marco shouted her name, but she was already gone. The roof was wind and darkness. Calderon stood at the edge, helicopter descending, his escape almost complete. You're very impressive, he called over the rotor noise. Marco chose well. He didn't choose. Naomi raised her gun. I did. Even better. Calderon's hand moved toward his own weapon. Shame we're on opposite sides. I could use someone with your instincts. I'm not for sale. Everyone's for sale. It's just a matter of price. His gun cleared the holster. They fired simultaneously. Naomi's bullet hit his shoulder. His went wide, or maybe she moved, muscle memory from Thomas's training taking over. She fired again. Again, each shot driving him backward until he teetered at the roof's edge. This is war, he said, almost conversationally. Then he fell. The body hit concrete 4 stories down with a sound Naomi would never forget. She stood there, gun still raised, breathing hard. Marco appeared at the roof access, blood on his suit, his expression unreadable. You didn't wait, he said. Neither did you. Naomi lowered her weapon. Is it done? Almost. Marco moved to the edge, looked down at Calderon's broken form. There's still one problem. What? My brother. His voice turned bitter. Thomas just confirmed. Leo's been feeding information to Calderon for 2 years. He orchestrated half of this war, including the shooting at the Waldorf. Naomi's blood ran cold. Your own brother tried to kill you? Tried to kill us. Marco turned to her. He knew what you meant. That's why he pushed Calderon to target you. If you died, I'd become unstable, vulnerable, easy to overthrow. Where is he? Downstairs. Surrendered immediately when the shooting started. Marco's jaw clenched. Coward until the end, they descended together. The warehouse floor was carnage bodies, blood, the chemical smell of gunpowder. Marco's men had won decisively. 3 of Calderon's guards survived, hands behind their heads, waiting for whatever came next. And in the center of it all, zip-tied to a support column, Leo DeLuca. He looked like a younger, softer version of Marco. Same bone structure, weaker chin, eyes that held intelligence without conviction. He didn't look away when they approached. Marco. His voice was steady. I can explain. Can you? Marco's tone held no emotion. Explain betraying our father's legacy. Explain selling out to Calderon. Explain orchestrating hits on your own blood. Father's legacy was chaos. Leo's voice turned defiant. You inherited an empire built on terror. I tried to dismantle it, make something clean. By working with cartels? Marco laughed, cold. That's not clean. That's substituting one monster for another. At least Calderon had vision beyond violence. Leo met his brother's eyes. You're just another thug in an expensive suit, Marco. I tried to be better. You were weak. Marco pulled his gun. And weakness is a death sentence in our world. Marco, wait. Leo's composure finally cracked. I'm your brother. You stopped being my brother the moment you betrayed the family. Marco's voice turned flat. Thomas. The FBI director, is he contained? Secured, Thomas confirmed. Naomi's blackmail material plus our evidence of his relationship with Calderon. He's cooperating. Good. Marco chambered around. Then we're done here. Please. Leo's voice broke. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything. Marco looked at Naomi. She is. Naomi's breath caught. What? You wanted to understand my world. Wanted to be more than bait. Marco extended the gun to her. This is the price. Leo orchestrated the shooting that almost killed me. He's the reason you're standing here covered in blood. He betrayed everything. Marco, I can't. Yes, you can. His voice turned gentle. Because if you don't, you'll always be the civilian playing at criminal. You'll always be separate, other. But if you do this, if you execute my brother for his crimes, you'll be family. Mine. Untouchable. Leo stared at her, tears streaming down his face. Please, I'm sorry. I'll disappear. You'll never. Naomi took the gun. Her hands didn't shake. Her conscience didn't whisper. She'd already killed a stranger in Marco's basement. Killed her ex-husband an hour ago. Killed Calderon on the rooftop. One more death wouldn't change who she was. It would just clarify it. I'm not doing this for you, she said quietly to Marco. I'm doing it for me. She pressed the gun to Leo's forehead. Wait, he sobbed. She pulled the trigger. The sound echoed through the warehouse. Leo's body slumped forward, held upright only by the zip ties. Naomi handed the gun back to Marco. Is that enough proof? More than enough. Something flickered in his expression. Pride, horror, respect. Welcome to the family. Around them, Marco's men watched in silence, witnessing, recording in their minds the moment Naomi Carter became something else. Thomas stepped forward. Cleanup crews are ready. We'll have this processed within 2 hours. Police have been redirected. Media is covered. Good. Marco surveyed the warehouse, the casualties, the survivors, the end of a 2-year war. Anyone who wants out has 10 seconds to walk away. After that, you're mine. Permanently. None of Calderon's surviving men moved. Smart. Marco's smile was cold. You're all promoted. Welcome to the winning side. He turned to Naomi. We should go. There's still work to do tonight. They walked out together, leaving Thomas to manage the aftermath. Outside, dawn was breaking pink and gold and beautiful, completely indifferent to the violence beneath it. Your brother, Naomi said quietly, was a traitor. Marco's voice held no grief. In our world, family loyalty is everything. He violated that. The consequences were inevitable. Do you feel anything? Relief. He stopped at the car. Leo's betrayal meant I could never trust my own instincts. Now I can. You've proven your loyalty in blood. That's worth more than brotherhood. Naomi should feel horror. Should feel something human and broken. Instead, she felt clarity. She'd crossed every line, burned every bridge, become exactly what Marco needed, and she didn't regret it. What happens now? She asked. Marco opened the car door. Now we rebuild. Create something that lasts beyond violence. And you... He met her eyes. Become what you were always meant to be. What's that? Queen of the underworld. They drove back to the safe house as the city woke up, unaware that the balance of power had shifted overnight, that a war had ended, that a new empire was beginning, and at its heart, a woman who'd started as bait and become something far more dangerous, a survivor who'd stopped apologizing for existing. 6 months later, Inferno looked exactly as it had the night Naomi kissed Marco DeLuca and changed her life forever. Red lights cutting through manufactured darkness, beautiful people pretending their money made them important, bass that thundered through bones and blood. But Naomi wasn't the same woman who'd stumbled through these doors, drunk and desperate. She walked through the crowd now, like Moses through water people, parted without being asked, their eyes tracking her movement with the same fearful respect they'd once reserved for Marco alone. Her dress was black and severe, tailored by designers who knew better than to refuse her business. Her jewelry was minimal. She didn't need decoration. Power was its own ornament. Marco waited in the VIP section, their VIP section now, the one that overlooked the entire club like a throne room. He looked up when she approached, his smile private and genuine. Late, he observed. Productive. Naomi slid into the booth beside him, accepting the champagne he offered. The waterfront development deal closed. Johnson Construction officially works for us now. And the zoning commission approved our expansion into the harbor district. All legal? Completely. Her smile was sharp. Turns out, when you control the right people, you don't need to break laws. You just rewrite them. Marco laughed, genuinely pleased. You've become efficient. I've become necessary. Naomi surveyed the club below. How did your meeting go? The Benedetti family has agreed to our terms. They'll handle Chicago. We keep the East Coast. Sal Calabrese's replacement is cooperating. Turns out, no one wanted Victor alive anyway. Marco's hand found hers. We've essentially neutralized every threat that existed 6 months ago, and created new ones. Always. He squeezed her fingers. But we're ready for them now. We're stronger, unified, feared. Naomi thought about the woman she'd been, the waitress who served food with a smile and took abuse as part of the job description. That woman felt like a stranger now. Someone she'd read about in a book and pitied. Do you ever regret it? Marco asked quietly. Which part? All of it. The manipulation, the violence, the transformation into this. He gestured to the club, the empire, the life they'd built on blood and strategy. Naomi considered the question honestly. No, not even a little? Not even a little. She met his eyes. I was dying before you, Marco. Slowly. Invisibly. Watching my life drain away in double shifts and bus routes and rent I couldn't afford. You gave me purpose. I gave you trauma. You gave me clarity. Her voice turned fierce. I'm not pretending this is healthy or normal or good, but I'm alive now. Really alive. Not surviving, thriving. And I'll take dangerous over invisible any day. Marco studied her face. This woman who'd killed his brother without hesitation, who'd turned betrayal into empire, who'd become exactly what he'd needed and more. You terrify me. Good. Naomi kissed him slow, deliberate, public enough that the entire club would see and remember. Fear keeps you sharp. When they broke apart, Thomas appeared at the booth's edge. The FBI director called. He wants to schedule a meeting about the new oversight committee. Tell him we're available Thursday. Naomi didn't look away from Marco. And remind him we have recordings of every conversation he had with Calderon, just in case he's forgotten why he's so cooperative. Thomas nodded and disappeared. You're ruthless, Marco observed. I learned from the best. Naomi drained her champagne. Speaking of which, Jasmine, Marco's expression turned cold. What about her? She's reached out, wants to apologize, begging for a meeting. Naomi's voice held no emotion. What do you want me to do? What do you want to do? Naomi thought about her former best friend. The woman who'd sold her for $200,000, who'd enabled her kidnapping, who'd chosen greed over decades of friendship. Nothing, she decided. She's not worth the effort of revenge. Let her live with what she did. That's punishment enough. Merciful of you. Strategic, Naomi corrected. Killing her makes her a martyr. Ignoring her makes her irrelevant. And irrelevance is worse than death for someone like Jasmine. Marco's smile widened. You really have learned. Below them, the club pulsed with life. Naomi watched the crowd, young people dancing, drinking, pretending tomorrow didn't exist. She recognized their desperation. Used to wear it herself. Do you think we're the villains? She asked suddenly. Marco considered this. Probably. But villainy is perspective. We maintain order through fear. We build legitimate businesses on criminal foundations. We hurt people who threaten what's ours. He shrugged. By conventional morality, we're monsters. And by our own morality, we're survivors who refuse to be victims. His hand found the small of her back, possessive, protective, exactly what they'd become to each other. We're the ones who saw how the world really works and chose power over helplessness. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. Marco pulled her closer. I stopped believing in good and evil years ago. There's only strong and weak, predator and prey, those who take and those who lose. And we're the ones who take. We're the ones who refuse to lose. He kissed her temple. Everything else is just narrative. A woman approached the VIP section. Young, beautiful, trembling with the kind of courage born from desperation. Security stopped her at the rope, but Naomi gestured them aside. "You have 30 seconds," Naomi said. The woman's voice shook. "My name is Keisha Morris. I heard you help women escape bad situations. My ex-husband he's threatening me. The police won't help and I don't know where else." "What's his name?" Naomi interrupted. "David Morris. He's a lawyer. Connected. I can't." "Thomas." Naomi didn't look away from the woman. "David Morris. Full workup by morning. And make it clear. Touching Miss Morris again would be a terminal mistake." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." "Don't thank me." Naomi's voice turned cold. "This isn't charity. You owe me now. When I call, and I will call, you'll do exactly what I ask. Understood?" "Yes." Keisha nodded frantically. "Anything. Good. Thomas will get your contact information. Now go." The woman fled, relief and terror warring on her face. Marco watched the exchange with interest. "You're building an army," he observed. "I'm building a network," Naomi corrected. "Women who owe me. Women the system failed. They're loyal because they have nowhere else to go, and you'll use them. I'll deploy them strategically." She met his eyes. "Just like you deployed me." Marco's laugh was genuine. "You've surpassed the teacher. I've become what you needed." Naomi stood, straightening her dress. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with the mayor about our housing development proposal. At midnight?" He's most cooperative after his 4th scotch. Her smile was all teeth. "And I'm very good at knowing exactly when to ask for things." She started to leave, then stopped. Looked back at Marco, the man who'd orchestrated her life, destroyed her reputation, and given her purpose through violence. "I don't love you," she said quietly. "I know, but I choose you, every day, deliberately." She held his gaze. "That's better than love. Love is accidental. This is intentional." "What is this?" Marco asked. "Partnership. Empire. Survival." Naomi's expression softened fractionally. "Everything that matters." She left him sitting in the VIP section of the club where it had all begun, where a drunk waitress had kissed the wrong man and started a war, where Naomi Carter had died, and someone else, someone stronger, someone ruthless, someone free had been born. The bass thundered. The lights pulsed. The city sprawled below, millions of lives unfolding in the darkness. And above it all, watching from her throne, a woman who'd stopped apologizing for existing, who'd embraced the monster everyone accused her of being, who'd turned victimhood into empire and trauma into power. Naomi Carter was dead. Long live the queen of the underworld. She walked through the crowd toward her waiting car, her security detail falling into formation around her. People whispered as she passed, some with fear, some with admiration, all with respect. This was her world now, not by accident, not by fate, by choice. And she'd defend it with the same ruthless efficiency she'd used to claim it. 3 seconds to ruin your life. The story had begun, but Naomi had learned the secret. Sometimes ruin was just renovation. Sometimes the life you destroyed was the one holding you back. Sometimes the monster you became was exactly who you were always meant to be. She slid into the car, the door closing on the club's chaos. Through tinted windows, she watched Inferno's red lights pulse against the night sky. "Where to?" her driver asked. Naomi smiled, cold, beautiful, utterly at peace. "Everywhere. We own it all." The car pulled away from the curb, carrying her into the city she'd conquered, into the empire she'd built, into the life she'd chosen. Dangerous, violent, powerful. Perfect.